there's a book I read that I really didn't like, and it's like a 1-star read. I don't want to like go on and on about it in the beginning of a video in case, one of you guys like really likes that book or something. Like, I just feel kind of bad hating on a book that someone might like, but I figure, if I rank him and the 1 stars are at the end, you guys might be asleep. husband slowly starts to turn into a great white shark. So it is magical realism. It's like grounded in reality, but in this world, it's like a rare medical condition. So it's not like super crazy that that's happening. Like, people in this world know that that happens, but it's still kind of like a rare condition. But this was the book I picked up like halfway through the month, and it was my first 5-star read of the month. And yeah, it blew me out of the water. You know, pun fully intended. It is such a moving story. It will definitely also tug on your heartstrings. I don't know, I just thought about it for like days after I finished it. You know, it really stuck with me. It's a very bittersweet story. And yeah, this one I also loved the characters so much. This one goes like back and forth in time, and is told from like various perspectives. But yeah, I don't know, it just explores human connection, obviously, like marriage, love, motherhood. Yeah, and him turning into a great white shark. It's not as weird as it sounds. Like the way she writes it, it's very almost like scientific and like medical. So yeah, I really like how she approached that. And this one also has very short, like easily readable chapters. So this one would be like Ren, age 9. You know, short, very, very short chapters. Yeah, I loved this one as well. Ugh. Okay, next book. My next 5-star. I was really surprised with this one. It's The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. Another new to me author. So far, all 3 of these have been new to me authors. The X-Files. Yeah, this book may If you haven't, I don't know what you're doing. But I'm gonna, I guess, slightly spoil that. But I mean, that movie is like so old. So if you haven't watched it, that's on you, okay? But anyway, at the end of that, you know, we don't know whether anything that Chihiro went through really happened or not. It's kind of left like up in the air. But then, you know, she has that hair tie that Haku gave her in her hair. She doesn't realize it, but we as the audience like see it, and it's kind of like, oh, maybe it did happen. And it's like kind of melancholy because you don't know if she can ever return to that world. But book specifically reminded me of Tangled with the evil mom, you know. It's about a young girl named Cordelia, and she is manipulated by her mom's magic, and then her mom sets her sight on this like rich man that she wants to marry, and in doing so, Cordelia is introduced to like this whole host of characters, like side series. For fans of diverse, nuanced epics like Black Sun and the Broken Earth series, will find this worth their while. If you're into those series, I think you would really appreciate this one. Okay, next, we're still in 4-star category. I read Brutes by Diz Tate. Brutes. This was such an interesting read, very reminiscent of The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. I can see a lot of people not liking this one. I think, yeah, on Goodreads it has a pretty low rating. Like, I don't know, 3.1 or something like that. And yeah, it's about a group of 13-year-old girls that live in this small suburban Florida town. And it's like summer, it's hot, humid, sticky. They are always like moving as a group, watching everyone in the town. And they are particularly obsessed with the preacher's daughter who goes to their school but is older than them. And then she mysteriously goes missing. And so, yeah, it's kind of a story about adolescence and kind of like that awkward stage of growing up where you're still innocent but kind of like on the verge of losing your innocence. It is told from like multiple perspectives, and oftentimes you don't know which girl is narrating the story. But yeah, I think it has this last third of the book is so jammed packed with stuff. Like, it randomly becomes a suspense, and I feel like the ending was a bit abrupt. But yeah, their interactions, like the agent and the, what was his name, Commander Graham Gore, their interactions were so has no memory of who he is, but he has all these like goblin servants that are scared of him, and there is a princess locked up in his dungeon, so he's trying to figure out like what the heck is going on. And then he kind of comes to realize that he's embroiled in some bigger like evil villain scheme, and he doesn't know if that's something he still wants to do. So yeah, such an interesting premise, right? But it was so boring. It dragged so much. Everything felt like halfway developed, like the characters, the plot, the world building. All had so much potential, but no like good execution. And because it never moved past that kind of like introductory, superficial level, I just started losing interest. And I feel like the book never really found its footing, at least, like, you know, in my opinion. And I didn't know what the point of the plot was. Like, it never went anywhere. The characters didn't have any meaningful, like, arc or development or anything like that. And, yeah, so, unfortunately, didn't love that one. Okay, and then my last 2-star read was Tokyo Ever After by Emiko Jean. I didn't like this book, but the reason I gave it 2 stars instead of 1 star is because, like, clearly I'm not the audience for this. Like, I like YA fantasy and stuff, but YA contemporary, I think, is just not for me now. It was so cheesy and so cringy. It is basically The Princess Diaries in book form, except our main character is half Japanese, or is she full Japanese? I can't remember, but she's Japanese American and realizes that her father is the crown prince of Japan, and then she like goes to Japan for like a month. It was boring. It just wasn't for me. The writing wasn't for me. The characters in this book, I have to say, they're like 18. She's 18, and like her romantic interest is like 21 or something. This is way cheesy.